Ready.
Okay.
Mandy,
Ready.
are you ready? Okay.
Pretty good?
Okay. Good evening. I'd like to call to order this May 23rd, 2018 regular board meeting of the Pullman School District, and we'll begin as we always do with the flag salute led by Mandy Orvenio from Pullman High School ASB.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Superintendent Maxwell, are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
Yes, I do want to call your attention to one very last minute addition, and that is in discussion items, number 8, C, 2017-2018 Paraprofessionals Collective Bargaining Agreement. Yesterday afternoon, we received a final corrected copy from WEA, and then we had to add a salary schedule to it, so that's why it was getting out late. But I will highlight areas that I will call your attention to, but I wanted to get it in so you had time to look it over. You're not going to take action on it tonight, but I wanted to get it out to you as soon as possible because it is a time-sensitive issue.
Okay.
And that should be the only adjustment.
I move approval of the agenda as amended.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve tonight's agenda. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the agenda is approved. We'll move on to reports, correspondence, and program, beginning with board reports. Director Roberts.
Nothing to report this evening.
Okay, thank you. Director Everman.
Nothing to report this evening.
Okay, thank you. Director Tanner.
I'm noticing as school is winding down, activities are kind of ramping up a little bit. I've participated in quite a few things since our last meeting. I got to attend the 4th grade wax museum at Sunnyside, which was very cool. I thought the kids did a great job. Almost all of them had their people memorized. There was a couple reading off cards, but I think that everybody felt really proud of what they were doing. It was really neat. I also had the pleasure of attending some of the senior culminating project presentations, which were very impressive. The ones that I saw were, wow, they were great. I also went to the Art Walk, the school district show, which was in the City Hall parking lot, and got to see everything that Mrs. Mueller had put together. That was really cool for almost all grade levels. And Lincoln Middle School had their 7th and 8th grade dance last weekend. It was a Hawaiian theme, so I hear that was very successful as well. So lots going on.
Thank you. We are overlapping, but somehow not seeing each other at these events. But yes, very enjoyable. I judged a session of senior projects. I think there were 6 per session or something like that, and that was interesting to look at their rubric and see how the students compared. But they didn't need to look down at note cards or anything.
Yeah.
Their presentations were very well prepared. All right, next we have the PHS ASB report. So, Mandy, please.
Well, hello, it's lovely to see all of you again. I want to start with prom that's coming up on June 2nd and Emily Banyans. And all of our juniors and seniors are getting excited, getting ready for that, and making plans. We also have the Moving Up Assembly coming up. That's on June 4th, and it will be a way for us to commemorate the seniors that will be leaving us very shortly. We also are doing our Kiss the Senior Goodbye fundraiser, which will be a way for our students to say goodbye to the seniors and for the seniors to say goodbye to each other, since they'll be going off to new places and they might not have the same contact they did while they were here. We are also going to be having the 8th graders come up for their orientation, and our Link crew is super excited to help show them around. And we've also been sending our students to the middle school to help out with events such as the dance that you previously mentioned. I also want to talk about our seniors. They did amazing with their presentations, as you guys stated. Most of them passed with flying colors, and all of them gave us great new knowledge on things we didn't know before, so we're excited about that. And I'd also like to tell you that our new ASB for next year has been trying to help the old ASB as they finish up their events, like setting up and closing down for different events like Spring Flames will be coming up, the dance, prom, and previous dances that we've had in the last couple of weeks. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have the superintendent's report.
Okay, so I have a list of items, so I'll try to keep them, each item below 3 minutes so I don't have to stand. Okay, so a construction update, Kamiak Elementary continues to be on schedule unless Joe corrects me. I missed the last construction meeting, but I've been seeing a lot of work trucks, deliveries, things are going pretty well. We'll have a meeting tomorrow, so I'll be able to update, but right now the weather's been good, things are moving right along, so that looks great. Just to bring to your attention, received an email from the National Assessment of Educational Progress. That's the NAEP assessment. We were notified that FES, and I'm going to pass you an informational copy for each of you. Franklin Elementary 4th grade will be required to take the reading and math NAEP in 2019. This is required if a district or school receives Title I funds. So it's not, can we opt out of it? You get the privilege of doing it. And since we do accept Title I funds, I've handed you a fact sheet, but it's about 120 minutes total testing time. That's including both math and reading. And schools get selected, either grades 4, 8, or I think it's 12. Pretty common. We don't get it every year, but occasionally one of our grade levels are selected. So wanted to give you a little background information. It's just a simple one page, both sides information if you get questions or you want to know more about it.
Is it just the luck of the draw?
Yeah, there's a selection process. I'm not exactly sure how they select it. I think they take a look at each state, then they take a look at districts, and we don't get it. We don't get selected every year, so I think it's kind of a lottery, and maybe also taking a look at performance scores across the state. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. Also, we've been contacted by WSU. Landscape Architecture course is interested this fall in creating a landscape design concept for the district office. They're doing one for the new city hall, and since they know Parks and Rec will be moving out, they thought it'd be nice to include the school district in their course. And I will say a similar project happened this year with the Pullman Education Foundation website, and a class actually created their website. There were two actual different groups, designs, and I had the privilege of going and watching the presentations for their final. Fabulous work. So, so they're going to present their designs at the end of the semester. So that's kind of fun. I thought, yeah, that'd be great. Take a look at that and see what they may come up with. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. Also, I will send this around. So this is my next one. It's Pullman High School received a certificate of recognition for meeting the Sustainable Schools criteria, which meant that Pullman High School has a superior energy performance rating, reduced water usage, and excellent indoor environmental qualities. So this was an award that actually Joe put in and submitted and received. So we've been encouraged to apply again next year for a higher level award recognition, Joe, basically. Yeah. Also, Scratch Cooking Grant. So I've had some communications from board about that, so I wanted to get some additional information. Sheba is continuing to pursue that opportunity. She's already arranged training. We don't have a dollar amount, but if it's over $10,000, that's definitely would be something the board would approve. I think the board was interested in pursuing the cooking scratch grant. If you'd rather take a formal action on that, we can definitely do that. As soon as I have a better idea of what that grant may involve, we can bring that back to the board for their review. And we know we have to get trained first, so we're going ahead and getting that training scheduled so we can lock that in for our folks. And as we get more information on what the analysis would be of what we would benefit as far as scratch cooking, I think we'll have a better idea of what the dollar amount would be for grant and what that might be, whether it's, for example, kitchen equipment or something else.
So are we trying to do that for the 2018-2019 school year?
She was taking a look at that, yeah.
Okay, possibly.
Possibly.
Okay.
I'm not, it's kind of, you got to get in, and then as they do the analysis, they'll tell us how much we will be able to start with and then build upon. So we're kind of getting in the queue of other districts.
So would that involve training over the summer?
Right now, they're looking at training in August.
And are they going to evaluate like our kitchen facilities, or is that after we take action on the grant proposal? Or-
They'll do it, they'll evaluate, and then they'll probably come together, from my understanding, and then say, based on what we've looked at, we think we should start maybe with one building or with three, and
then this
we
is gonna
determine
cost
that
X.
you need equipment or you don't need equipment, you need more training, so
And where would Kamiak fit into all of that? Would we be able to prepare the kitchen as we're building it for whatever we would need, or?
Joe and
That
Shiva
already
actually had a
kind of-
lot of input into the design process 2 years ago, and it actually would be the best outfitted kitchen, Joe, of any of the elementaries.
By far.
By far, and I think it'll have
What we need.
what we need, so I don't think we're gonna have to add anything at Kamiak.
Great.
We put a lot of thought into the kitchen model at Kamiak. So,
Well, as just one board member, I would be interested in continuing to be updated and giving us the opportunity to
sure,
take action
Yeah, I agree
to
with that.
improve things as possible, because I just think it
yeah.
kind of sets a tone for the community's expectations for school food.
And actually, if you look at one of our wellness goals, scratch cooking was one of our wellness
Yes.
goals. So I figured it was okay to at least start the process.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you have my full support. I mean, my concern is really the cost, otherwise I'm totally behind it.
Yeah, and like I said, I think we'll have, to get a cost to you, I think they're gonna have to do the analysis and say, here's what we're gonna suggest. And then I could bring that back. And if it's over 10 grand, you have to approve it anyway, so.
Yeah. The cost, and also, I just want to be sure that we're serving the kids things that they're actually going to eat, not a tray full of healthy food that just goes into the trash can, which it sounds like they've worked hard on creating menus to.
Well, I like the
Oh,
marketing
guard
aspect
against
too, like
that.
selling and doing the taste testing and all that stuff. I
The
think I
curriculum
like
that
all
goes
those
along
ideas.
with it was impressive.
It's been, the superintendents I've talked to up in the Spokane area that have been involved in it said it's phenomenal. And they said the kids are eating it, the kids are buying in, and even with our salad bars, our kids are eating it. We don't have a whole lot of waste, and that's because they get to select or not select.
Mhm.
So, and actually Sheba did a hummus and
Yeah.
peppers.
Yep, yep.
And it was fabulous.
Locally sourced garbanzos, yeah,
Yeah.
for hummus. She's got food processors to do that,
Neat.
yeah.
So it's really, I highly encourage, if that's on the menu, to try it. So Sheba provided, I'll ask Sheba to provide us maybe a monthly or every month update, or as she comes with information, so. Also, just want to call to your attention, the PHS track is going to be scraped off, and we're going to have a new surface put on this summer. And so that track will not be available, but we've been working with 2 different vendors, taking a look at 3 different options. The track has exceeded its lifespan by several years, and now is the opportunity for us to get that done. And so we've scheduled that, and that'll be happening. So it'll close the track for at least a couple of weeks, right, Joe?
At least.
Yeah. But in the summer, we only have one group that typically uses it, and they can
Is that the
use.
Comments?
Yes, and they can use Lincoln Middle School.
Okay, good. As long as there's a plan B.
There's a Plan B, so I just want to bring that to your attention. So if you notice the track is locked or there's construction going on, what's happening, so you're not caught off guard. Also, we've had a request, and I will, I think I've shown that, if not, for a joint board meeting between the City Council, Hospital, and School Board. There are 2 proposed dates, September 11th and 18th, and those are Tuesday. So if you're interested in pursuing that, That's not a normal work session time or board meeting, but that's something you can think about.
And did they,
Repeat that.
It's on here, I'll pass it.
It's September 11th or the 18th were the suggested dates
When you're saying it's all three, it's the city, the
Yep.
hospital, and the school
Did they-
district all?
all together.
did they send an agenda or any sort of items that they ever?
There's no agenda. I think they've talked in the past about doing a joint meeting between the city and the school district. The hospital kind of is involved in that now as well. I think it's something that they're interested in, but no agenda specifically. I think they were trying to figure out, is it possible to get a date where everybody would come to the table, so to speak.
That's far enough out, I think there's hope.
So I mean, you can think about that.
This is part of the 2040 initiative?
No, it's not part of the 2040. It's something in the past, we've talked about maybe getting with the city and talking about, what's kind of future plans or what's some common things that we're doing, so.
Bike paths? things
Yeah.
like that.
Keeping more in alignment and communication with what's going on.
Can I come with a sidewalk building list?
So I just want to bring that to your attention, and you can let me know how you would like to respond, and I'll leave that for you to think about, so. Also, I'll pass around this document. So at the Whitman County Superintendents meeting yesterday, Mike Dunn, who's the superintendent of ESD 101, shared some advanced placement and testing data. And one of the things that you will see, and I'll just show this as it comes around, is this is a quadrant where this is a national average percentage of AP test exams for our region in 101. Pullman is here. So basically we had between 48 and 60% of our seniors take and pass an AP exam with a 3 or better. So it's a great place to be, but it kind of shows where the other districts fall in. If you're here, you want to try to get into this upper quadrant. So I wanted to share that with you. And this is based on 2017. And so this will be coming around. I have 2 copies, so I can pass those. The last thing that I have before we get to Joe.
Can I ask a question
Sure.
regarding what you just did? So with us being in the refine quadrant,
Mhm.
has the team discussed what refinements would be made in our current?
We haven't even brought this back to
Oh,
the building
okay.
administrators yet. I literally received it today.
Oh, okay.
So one of the things that you do know, we did add some additional AP courses to the high school this year. Many of our students take the AP exam without the course.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that we've been talking about. How do we encourage kids, especially with world languages, to take some
Yeah. Well,
additional courses if they're interested?
I've gone to a couple WASDA sessions on this topic where they really look at equity in
Yes.
access to these courses and these tests, and that would be something I'd be interested in seeing, is data about that and thinking about how it can be as equitable as possible.
And actually, I signed an AP test waiver today, well, a couple of them. One for a student who was eligible for Medicaid, another student with some circumstances that we have what's called a Donati fund, so paid for his tests out of that fund.
Because in Spokane, they're making it basically just the default. All kids are going into the AP testing track, which is interesting. And they're also paying as a district.
Some
they're
districts
paying
do, and that's
for
something
it.
that we could explore to reduce that financial piece, because only the kids that ask for
Right.
assistance.
I'm not saying I have I'm
Yeah.
throwing it out there that I'm definitely aware of different districts approaching that in different ways. So.
Yes. So I just kind of wanted to get that
Yeah.
out to you, and I can get you a hard copy for
But
each of you.
nevertheless, it's nice to see us up in the upper right there.
Yeah, we had the highest of any
Yeah.
district in the 59 in our area. So it's just another.
Sorry to pull you up.
No, that's fine.
So of the 59 in our District 10 legislative district, or?
No, 59 school districts within ESD 101.
Oh, gotcha.
We have so many different.
I know there's so many different
Yeah.
geographic segments.
So-
No one could fault you for not knowing which particular district.
So that's just for ESD 101, so it's looking at the 59 school districts within ESD 101, those are the AP results.
Thank you.
So, yeah. So, and that can definitely be a topic. It will be a topic because that's something that we discussed pretty heavily last year and we'll probably continue to. Also, I will be passing around a letter. We've had another sign request to put up some signs along the high school. I did make a copy of our new policy on that. So I'll pass that around. There is one for each of you if you'd like.
Okay.
So I'll talk about that later as soon as I can find where I put the request.
Would these be commercial?
They're not commercial. It's the Hope, Don't Give Up. They're the white signs with the black lettering. It's explained in the letter that's coming around.
Yeah, it'll be.
Sorry, I didn't make a copy of the letter for everyone, but. So, all right, with that, that's the end of my report, and I'll turn it over to Joe, Pullman Transit.
So I just wanted to give you a brief update at some changes we're looking at doing with the Pullman Transit school bus service that's provided for us. This is not something you need to take action on. This boils down to kind of bus routes and stuff like that, and you guys do not need to get stuck in the weeds over that minutia. But this is going to change some dynamics for some families, so we want to keep you up to date on this. So this is something that's been constantly evolving. Something that changed last year is they are now actually a contract agency to provide bus service. It used to be that the buses they ran for us, the trippers were open to the public as well. Some regulations changed that kind of required them to make those really school buses. It's actually a much better model. So just to update you on some changes we're looking at for next year. One of them is a reduction in the number of routes. They feel like they can serve the same number of students, almost the same number of students, taking us from 6 buses down to 5. That's going to be a cost savings. It eliminates the loops that are currently happening, which is like, for example, in the morning, the middle school to the high school, back to the middle school, because there are legs of those loops that don't have any kids on them at all. As well as it's been providing students an opportunity to maybe choose multiple different buses to get on. That's not really the way school buses are supposed to work. Here's your bus, here's the time. If you miss it, you better start walking or call your parents. So it's meant to be a much more efficient way of doing this. And then the other change that we realize we need to make is that they have been picking up students within that 1 mile radius of the high school or of the middle school. And the problem with that is we're not funded for that. The expectation from the state is that students are to walk. If they live within a mile, they're to walk, or we can actually require them to walk up to a mile to get to a bus stop. So that's something, and I'll show you what that looks like. So some advantage of this is going to reduce the length of time the students are on the bus. It's going to be shorter bus trips, as well as lower costs for the district. And some disadvantages, it is going to eliminate some kids who have been traditionally getting picked up, and I'll show you some data really close to schools when they should be walking. So for example, this is the current PM5 route. So this is a bus that loops back and forth between, does kind of a big loop back and forth between the high school and the middle school. And a very similar route next year, but as you can see, this big blue circle is identifying that area that students will no longer be able to catch this bus, I want to emphasize this bus, to get to Pullman High School. However, Transportation and I have identified this neighborhood that is on the east side of Grand as something that, even though it's within that mile, we still want bus pickup there, because at that point of Grand, where it's, at that point in time, it's become a highway,
Yeah.
that's not a safe crossing route of Grand.
Good.
Now, if that was somewhere other places on Grand, you can reasonably assume a middle schooler or high schooler could safely cross, but not there, where the speed limit steps up to 35. So we are going to continue to provide bus service from this area to the high school, even though it's within that mile radius. And then, just to give you another contrast, this is a current route, an AM1 route, and next year it'll look somewhat like this. Again, the emphasis here is this mile circle now around Legal Middle School. And if I could go back, this circle though incorporates, currently there are only 11 what the city has identified, they call them ineligible riders, kids that they've been picking up, riding the bus to the high school. Within this circle, there's only 11 students that this change is going to impact. At the middle school, it is 13 students. And where you'll see these students are being picked up, by the way, I looked at the map and the route. These kids who are catching a bus at Staley and Crestview are getting on that bus first thing, and that bus is coming all the way across town, all the way to the high school, and then looping back to the middle school. So I think those kids are really riding that bus for fun, because they could walk from where they live to the middle school in probably 10 minutes would be my down the hill and up the hill. So, and then if you'll notice here, there are 4 kids being picked up at Janet and Hall to come to the high school.
Wow.
That's pretty close. That's pretty close. Anyway, these are some changes we're looking at doing for next year. And the requirement will, the big push for us is going to be to communicate to these families what these changes are going to be. Now, this all being said, a principal at either of these 2 buildings still has the flexibility to give that student a bus pass. Now, technically, we're not supposed to issue a bus pass to them if they live within a mile radius, because there might be some circumstances around that family dynamic. We can give them the bus pass. The critical piece is, when we do our ridership report to the state, though, we need to make sure we back that student out so that we don't get funded for that student, because if they eventually audit us and catch us claiming students we're not supposed to get claimed, then Diane gets in a lot of trouble for that, and we want to avoid that. The other piece of this is that if students are within that area and they want to buy a pass from the city, it's $110 a year to buy a pass to catch any bus. Now, we will not be stopping within in that mile radius, but they can catch a regular route. And one of the things that I think is wonderful about our bus passes for students when they get it, that's available. They can use that at any time, Monday through Friday, on any route. So we have a student at the high school who stays late, working with a teacher after school activity. They can walk out to the aquatic center. It used to be the A route. I still call it the A route. I think it's now the blue route. And they can catch that bus and take it anywhere. So it's an extremely convenient service for our students. Any questions?
So is this only going to affect the in-town riders?
Correct. So in town, middle school and high school transportation in town is provided through a contract with Pullman Transit.
Gotcha. So it's only the Pullman Transit buses that were...
Correct. And to give you an analogy about that 1 mile radius thing, we could have a yellow school bus that's been out in the county coming to the high school with a group of kids, and they're going to come up State Street onto Janet and up Hall, and they might pass by a group of kids walking to school. They're not going to stop and pick them up. They can't stop and pick them up because they're within that mile radius. Similar to this.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Next up, we have the dynamic duo, Johnny Stevens and Grace Grow. Batman and Robin, right? Something like that. But there's only one Wonder Woman. So.
Who's Batman and who's Robin?
Don't worry about it.
We're not worried about it. I'll let you first. Yes. Okay, fine.
So thank you for having us. One of the things we wanted to do is we thought it'd be kind of fun because working with children should be fun, is we're going to introduce each other. So this is Johnny Stevens, and I don't know if you know this or not, but she loves math. Johnny, this is Johnny's second career. Before, she was a communications major, and she used to work for Macy's in HR. So she has some great knowledge with communication and how important that is. Her self-reflection every day inspires me, and inspires me. Sometimes she's too hard on herself. She's a lifelong learner. She's a Coug through and through and through. So go Cougs. This kind of sums it up about Johnny. A quote from her at the very beginning of the year is, "Let's not decide a child's potential at the age of 7." And we still have that up on a whiteboard. So, and that says a lot about her. I've never seen somebody get a task done so quickly in my life. She just gets up and does it, and it's done well. She personally changed my daughter's way of looking at math in 5th grade. My daughter struggled with math. Johnny knew how to get to her, and she inspired my daughter Alexis to know that everybody can do math. Her passion is contagious, and I am fortunate to work with her every day because we laugh every single day. So, Johnny Stevens.
This is Grace Grow. She's TOSA for Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment, which covers so much work. I am amazed daily at how much she does, so much work. She is a middle school English language arts teacher. That's her background. She has worked across the state with very diverse populations, and she feels very passionately about that. Her husband is also an administrator, and one thing I appreciate about Grace is that she brings a unique perspective to this position. I mean, she has a middle school, secondary perspective that we don't always have in this position, and we need it because all the schools in our district deserve to be supported by their TOSAs, and Grace makes sure we do. And every once in a while she'll give me an administrator's perspective that I hadn't thought of, and it's nice. It's important for us to do that because we're all in this together as a team. She's passionate about building productive relationships. We just went through differentiation training together, and the presenter was talking about building productive relationships and how you cannot hope to influence children unless you connect to them. And Grace was sitting back there going, "Yeah, preach it. Yeah. Johnny, I already told you that, didn't I? I already said that, right? Look, listen to what she's saying." And I was like, I know, Grace, I got this. She's an amazing partner. She challenges me and encourages me daily to be a continual learner. Joe said to us the other day that one of the things he enjoys is that he comes up and to hear what we're talking about because it's usually loud and it's usually passionate and we're not fighting, but I'm just like, "What about this? Have you thought about this?" She's like, "No, but have you thought about this?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, but what are we gonna do about it? I don't know." Like, so we're always trying to solve problems, and I appreciate that about her.
And they come in quietly so you don't know anything.
I know. And then the other day he came up and he goes, "Man, what a disappointment. You guys are quiet." She works hard as a resource to support all schools in our district. And that has been a great thing for me because I gravitate towards the elementary schools. And she's always like, "Well, what about LMS? What about the resource room at LMS?" And I'm like, "Dang it." Okay, good idea. So she's joyful, and you should walk into Lincoln Middle School with her sometime. The kids love her. They run up to her. You can tell that she cares about students and their growth. And that's the other thing. She's taught me a lot about SBA and assessments as a way to, as a tool for growth. Not something that we use to compare schools or teachers, but something we use to look at kids and opportunities for growth. And that has been powerful for me in how I look at assessment. So, Grace Grow.
Thank you. You want to do a click for me?
I sure do.
So Johnny and I decided one of the things we believe in is what's your why? You have to know your why about education so you can know where you want to go. And these are Johnny and I's why. I think it sums it up.
We found the top middle one together the other day, and we both were just like, "Oh yeah." We believe that passionately. People sometimes say, "Oh, well, this kid's doing this, or this kid did this, or he's not doing his homework, or he's not motivated, or he's lazy." And we're like, "Okay, you're right." It's true.
What are we going to do?
Now what? Yeah, that's not going to change, right? Parents are sending us the best kids they've got. So, and then, anyway, so we believe in these, and we are always putting up motivational things.
What was the one on the right? That was great.
If a child can't learn the way we teach, maybe we should teach the way they learn.
Yeah, who is that?
Estrada.
Ignacio Estrada.
That's obviously the belief in differentiation. We all learn better when we make that connection.
Sure.
Right, and we have lots of quotes that we believe in, but this seemed to hit our 4 big ideas, and that is that we need to meet kids where they're at. We need to have kids that look forward to going to school, and they don't have someone in their life every day that makes them look forward to it. And we want to encourage the kids to look forward to it, and that working with kids is a joy. This is fun stuff. We get to work with kids every day, so really encouraging those things.
So, our goal is to support teachers so we can support students in the end to support learning. These are some of the things that Johnny and I hit upon. You're going to notice it kind of has a theme. Johnny mentioned that I'm a big believer in building that relationship. Yes, the standards are important. Yes, assessment is important. But learning will not happen if you cannot build that climate and that culture in your school. So the variable that crosses SES barrier is that teacher efficacy, the belief that the teacher believes in that student, and that is number one. And how do we begin to believe in that? And how can we foster that in our district? Sometimes this job gets tiring, but building that relationship is really, really where it needs to begin.
We believe that in a growth mindset, and we're working really hard with our teachers to make sure that they have a growth mindset. We believe one of the things we need to do is provide access and opportunity to all learners. We see ourselves as agents of change. We kind of joke about that a little bit, about how we're agents of change. And that instead of talking about trying something new, and instead of talking about what could go wrong, let's talk about what could go right. So as long as we're keeping children in mind. This is also
Better explain that picture, Jen.
okay, so this is Halloween, and Grace and I dressed up for Halloween, and Grace was a Black Widow. Nice. I was pumpkin pie, P.I., and 3.141596. Okay, and that's whipped cream on top of my head. And we just had fun going around and being in the schools. And we've talked about this. We feel so blessed. We have been welcomed with open arms by educators, paras, teachers, students, administration across this district. They want help. They want to get better. They want to improve. They want students to learn and grow. And we're telling them we want that too. And we get asked every day we go into a building, or you get a phone call or an email. Can I have help with this, or what about this? So we feel wanted, so that's nice. We went to a WIRA conference with Roberta, and there was a speaker, and we're laughing because we joke that Grace has a crush on Pedro Noguera. He's
I do.
Yes, she has an educated
I asked if we could get him. The answer was no. I'm going to keep
He's
trying.
a professor from UCLA who taught us this idea of every child, every day. The
He's
idea.
very charismatic.
Yeah.
And he's knowledgeable. I mean,
Oh, yeah. And
yes.
this idea of agency versus grit. There's so much talk about hard work, but hard work without opportunity doesn't make a difference. So we have to provide opportunity and access for every child to get to work hard.
One of my favorite statements that he made was, when you're trying to lose weight, you just don't go buy a new scale. You got to change something up. It's not working.
I wish that worked.
You got to change something up, and it just hit me.
Just break the scale.
Okay, we feel that we've done something that's important to us is to provide resources for teachers. This is Courtney Hodge in the middle. She has been a big support and help to us. I can't tell you how many times we may do a teacher survey, or we may say, hey, we want to get this in the hands of teachers. And what does Courtney do but put together, 80 binders that are resources for us? I mean, she just killed it, and she's always, what do you guys want? I would love for you to come up sometime and look at our office space right now. She basically created that for us, and it's been exciting because it's provided a place for us to collaborate. So these binders had standards and other resources. We gave them some math manipulatives, and anyway, we really think that that's our job, and there are so many people at the district level that are supporting us in our work to help support teachers.
So this slide is about providing SBA support. And Johnny mentioned it, that assessment needs to be a tool, not a weapon. And that was also Pedro's comment. I use the word assessment because it's more of a positive connotation compared to tests, because it's assessing how we are doing. Not how the student just is, how we are doing. And so one of the things that I studied, I talked to you about this, I studied, is the end result of where we're going to go, because SBA is our summative from the standards, and we're trying to really support teachers of their knowledge. We've got to meet the teachers where they're at. This is not an easy thing to do. It is hard, but we need to keep supporting teachers with that knowledge. And the interims do not have to be done the same way. Interims are not assessments. They are a tool to help change our instruction or improve our instruction. It's knowledge of our students.
And they're one piece.
Yeah, just one piece. So these are pictures of our wall. We should have a whiteboard, but I don't know, somebody's really busy that has not put that whiteboard up. So this is our office of us trying to plan PE and collaboration. Those are real stickies that were up. We could have just.
They have moved a lot of stuff for us. Joe did ban me, I think, from School Dude for a little bit.
So, yeah, this is another thing that we're trying to do as a team is how can we support learning? Reading, collecting books, reading, getting some information so we can get it to the teachers. It's just another way that Johnny and I are trying to become better at our practice, and therefore then help the teachers and then support learning. So.
And the other thing that's on there is we've been working to put together, and you may have seen it in the TNL newsletter, hopefully you read that, about things to do over the summer for math. I put together something, and ELA, we had ELA too, but I put together something at each report card time about what the standards were again in each grade level, and then what you could do, and hopefully some of you got those if you have students in elementary. We put this one on here, extending our circle. I had an opportunity because my salary was paid this year by MMRE, Making Math Reasoning Explicit grant. I was able to go to Kathy Fosno, Joe Bowler. I worked with Ann Gallagher, who is the head of math for OSPI. It's important to extend our circle. There's great research, great ideas out there. We want to continue to extend our circle. And then Grace and I and Mimi and Heather are fellows through the ESD. And so that's Mimi and I getting our little math fellows certificate. But those give us opportunities once again to extend our circle, to go out beyond what Pullman is doing, to see what else is possible.
So this shows, I talked to you about our Learning Improvement Day, and we are continuing to grow and to listen to what the needs of our teachers are, and do surveys and get feedback, and really trying to just streamline that so it's connected to our SIP, our DIP, and our PIP. So school improvement plan, district improvement plan, and program improvement plan. So we're really trying to connect that. In the end, it's about the students. And so this was, again, us planning here. This was in Roberta's office. And this was the last collaboration day. This is first grade team. And this was when we had the last Learning Improvement Day. So really trying to listen to teachers' voices connected to our improvement plan.
And it's interesting, one of the biggest things we heard at our last collaboration day was thank you for letting us be in an elementary building.
Yes. So thank you for listening to their voices on that. That was great. This is also where, once we get our data, what's it for? It's just to inform some decisions. It's just one piece of the puzzle, one part of the picture. It's one more step to knowledge of our students. And this is us showing how we go about that. This was obviously a day collaboration, number talks, and then these, we have this picture here because you know what? They're just cute.
Well, we also did.
Well, hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so
that is true, they are cute.
Yeah, and one of the reasons we asked about student voice is we asked these two little girls is what do they want in a teacher? And the response was somebody who's nice and fun.
So
That's
part
what
of
we
what we
all-
want to do
so-
for new employee, new teacher training is to interview kids and teachers and people across the district and ask them what they're looking for in a teacher in our district, what makes our district unique. And so I started with these two. Probably should have started a little differently, but I'm learning as I go, you know. So they didn't have a lot to say, but they were cute. Yeah, okay. We're really working on having a common vision for what we think is important. I think that's valuable for creating the trust that we need. Teachers are willing to work with us because I think they trust us. We were invested some money in some trainers for math, and these are pictures from 2 different classrooms of these teachers doing these routines after these trainers had left, and they were so great. They're like, Johnny, come in and watch me teach this, watch what my kids are doing, and I love that. I love that kind of stuff, and I just love that when we went around to all the buildings and asked them, what do we value? What is our vision for mathematics? And you know what? We have the right vision. We have a right collective vision. We value conceptual understanding, collaboration, engaging, all of those things. So I thought that was really exciting stuff. This picture just shows Bill Holman being a human clock for a math night that they had at Franklin Elementary School. That's some math work. Mimi asked me to come in and help her kids with understanding partial products and multiplication, so I went in and worked with her on that. Pullman High School used some of the Cuisinart rods we bought to do their train activity. Jan Estep asked me about that, and that was really valuable. And then we were working on getting some counting collections together to really increase number sense for our kiddos.
And now, it's shocking, but we do ELA as well. I know, one of the things.
I even took these pictures, so.
Differentiation. Allison, you mentioned about access and equity. I'm a big believer in that, and I think teachers are really trying to differentiate. Sometimes they don't even know they're doing it, so we're going to really still empower them and teach them and guide them and what that looks like in your classroom. And it's K-12. It's K-12. And that's going to give opportunities for equity and access to content. So, differentiation.
Feedback, we really want to get teacher feedback whenever we do paraprofessionals, lid day, collaboration. When either one of us teach a session, we do some type of feedback so we know what's going on.
And again, about us, how we can support them. What can we do? Again, big believer in connotation. I like the word support rather than help. How can we support you? I just think it's a good idea, and these are some ways we went about doing that.
Top right-hand corner, we found some math resources for high cap that I thought were really cool. And these ones, you guys really have some really cool stuff going on. It's so cool. For new teachers in induction, we have this great book, Long and Long, First Days of School. What great teachers do differently. So really some motivational kind of things to support our new teachers. We're really excited about doing book studies with them about that. And then this is the really important work that we do. It's kind of an overview of the stuff we do. But once again, Grace and I don't want this to be the Grace and Johnny show as far as look at everything we do. I guess what we want to do is look at everything our teachers are doing. There's so much work in this district, so much important work, and we get to support that. We feel blessed that we get to support all that important work. Lots of things on here. I think we've gone over a lot of them, but all of these things are focused on improving teacher capacity to improve student learning. And then even when I went on a vacation, what do I write in the sand? Efficacy in education. So any questions, suggestions, or feedback, we would love to hear from you.
Thank you, John.
Yes?
Yes, thank you. So how will next year be different?
Great question. We're excited about next year. We've already
Yes, we are.
well, hey, I don't want to, I talk all the time. And so
Same school. She has to touch me to let me know.
I do. I touch her a lot.
She's going to interrupt me. So that's all I'll know.
This is what I'll go like this and she'll go, well, Johnny's going to interrupt me. We have already started planning. We want to have a plan ahead of time based on assessments and student needs and what our teachers want. We're doing a survey asking teachers what kind of professional development they want. I have collected several surveys with math, and then we're doing one general overall, and we're going to use that information to plan out our LID collaboration going forward. I know collaboration, we have limited ability to do that. I know there's other parameters, but we need to relook at collaboration. It needs to be more effective professional learning community. The way it is designed right now, and it's evolved from various reasons, not being critical of anyone, but it is not as effective as our kids deserve and our teachers deserve. So we have to address that. And we hope to be more purposeful this year than last year. We kind of started and we were like, let's go, trying to keep it in line. But we hope to be a lot more purposeful this year and continue the progress.
It's a learning curve, like anything, and we have to be mindful of giving ourselves a break a little bit on that and asking questions. I'm going to say so. I've learned so much from the leadership team. I don't know how they keep all of their stuff in their head and know. So from the whole leadership team, Johnny and I both. And so we're just doing our best, reflecting, and going to continue to try to figure out what's best for students based upon our plans.
So I have the honor, and it's a true honor, to work with and supervise these two. I have to be honest, there's some days when I have to sneak into my office and keep my door closed because I just can't have them come to me. Because I need to get some other things done. I mean, they are so full of energy and so ready to roll all the time. And the part that I think they have done beautifully this year is the support they've provided to our new teachers is second to none. And I worked in a very large system where we had mentors that did that. That's all that they did. And these two, what they have done for our new teachers has just been amazing. And I'm excited about the changes that they see that as a system we need to make next year. And the great part about it is that while Johnny and Grace will identify a problem, they are already have thought about a solution or a selection of choices about how it is we can move forward. They're always coming to me with more resources. They forced me to read a ton this year, which is great. I don't mind it. And then I say, oh, well, gosh, did you know that was actually something that happened back in the 80s?
She will go, this was version 2. Yeah. We're on like edition 13 now.
Yeah. So, and one of the pieces that they have been able to do is to close that gap for teachers, that between a newer, more novice teacher and those that are more experienced, or somebody that's experienced but new to our system, and so they might not have had the same professional development or understand the way that our system works, and they have been very willing to provide that support. So,
and we want to get better with that. We think we could do a better job by our new teachers.
See, and that's, and then always modeling best practice. And Grace is always on my case. Roberta is that person who's going to come in and do a presentation. Do you know that they're going to use best practice?
She does. Grace is always on
I mean, it is just like, and I appreciate it because that's how we grow as a system, is to hold one another accountable. And the
It took
trust.
me a while to share that with you, though. I was like, should I say this?
Yeah, and then I was great with it.
Yeah.
So it's just the relationship that they have, and I cannot say enough. I couldn't have picked two more perfect people to be in that.
Well, you seem to have a good dynamic together too, which is not something I would have, I mean, you've both impacted so many kids in this district and you have so many
thank you.
relationships already, and probably that contributes to your success in being accepted so widely throughout the district. But I didn't know how well you would.
Yeah. And you know what's funny is that Johnny got hired even later than I did, and I was a little nervous because I knew her as a teacher and my daughter loved her, but Johnny and I had not, I would consider us lifelong friends now,
Yeah.
but we did not socialize or because I was at LMS, and but we really just listened to each other and reflect, and
It's
her knowledge and it's just incredible.
And
it's
so's yours. I mean,
Yeah,
we
so-
do feel lucky to get to work with each other, and I know maybe other TOSAs in this position haven't had that luxury to get to have someone to work with. I'm telling you, it makes a difference.
Yeah.
Honestly.
It does.
I mean, it makes a huge difference that we get to work together.
So, thank you for the presentation. I really love hearing about what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Can you elaborate more on like why we need to relook at our collaboration? I mean, as far as what we're doing that's wrong and right?
Okay, do you want to start? Can I just go?
No,
Okay. I want to open up this can. You did?
Please do.
There's a lot of research on professional learning communities and what makes them successful, and we're not following that right now. And I don't think it's, I think it was a combination of maybe original presentations and what we wanted to get through, I don't know the whole deal of how we've evolved where we have, but I think teachers want more times where they get to work with their grade level, with their own, within their building and across the district, those teams. They really enjoy that time. I just got to meet with the teachers at Franklin Elementary School, all the teachers at Franklin Elementary School this last week, and they asked for that again. They said, can we please have more time where we get to work on these ideas and do some planning in reaction to this is what happened on this first assessment, or this is the first, the formative assessments we have. What can we do going forward to identify these kiddos and change our practice together? They want to utilize the professionalism between and among them. That collective power is greater than one.
And that's happening at Lid Days, right? Or is it happening aside from that as well?
Lit Days is learning and improvement days, but I think what Johnny's hitting upon is that collaboration piece between the teachers of a goal, a specific goal.
But do you guys facilitate that within a grade level, or?
No. And so one of the things I want to bring up is that it's just like students. Some teachers are more knowledgeable about how PLCs work.
That's true.
So it's not a reflection on what the district, I would say, is doing. And so, no, I know you weren't saying that.
Okay.
I'm just
but
saying.
I mean, I'm not trying to rip anybody. I'm just saying I want it to be more effective.
Okay, my turn.
You didn't
So-
touch her.
Yeah.
I moved away.
So it's just that. It's sometimes teachers have a plan, and then they, with life and everything and teaching, they forget what their plan was, that collaboration goal. And so it's just about even us as a district figuring out what's a better way for us to communicate that, keep track of that, hold people accountable, because just like any system, some people are doing it in a way that needs to be done and some people aren't. So it's just us learning and how we can then support and grow and get better at that.
And we just had a conversation with Bob and Roberta as a leadership team about collaboration and professional development. We've already modified the form a little bit. So we are taking steps. I do believe that. We started taking some steps to make it as valuable of time as possible for our teachers.
Some people come from a PLC, like other districts have had it for longer times. And so this was a little bit newer to Pullman, where other districts some districts have every Monday, late start on Mondays, every Monday. So us having a half day on Wednesdays once a month is new when other districts, so kind of that PLC part is something we need to get some professional development with teachers and just model what that is.
We do need to invest in
It's
some
newer.
professional development.
I know we're thinking it's not, but it really is. It's a little bit newer to Pullman.
So it's not anybody's fault, but I don't know if our teachers all know how to work in a PLC group, honestly. We need to do some education.
Well, and I can tell you from the last collaboration, it was district, and all of at the elementary level, all of them met at Jefferson in their grade level teams, and they all asked for common assessments. And that's really, professional learning communities really come from that. We come and talk about a common assessment that we've administered and the results, and then what our subsequent action is. And so that's really what it's built on. And my sense is that I'm still relatively new, but my observation is that we might have had some structures, but not all of the structures that appear in the literature now, and that some groups have really worked on. And so we've been investing in some of the latest work, say by Eaker and Keating, to really look at how do you drill that down into those grade level teams, and what structures do you provide. So I just got a resource on Monday related to that. So we're taking a look at how to restructure it, because that's all that I think that it needs is just some tweaking to make it so
More efficient.
yes, more efficient. Yeah, I think
And
that's
K5 is not going to look the same as 6-12 because and they get tired of me telling them that, but it's true. K5 is you can get in your grades and it works across the district, whereas it's content at secondary. And sometimes you can get in your grade bands, depending on what you're going to be hitting. What's that assessment? What's that data you're going to be looking at? So sometimes what works for K5 doesn't work for 6-12, but it's supposed to be about looking at data, informing your instruction, and what you're going to do next. And we're getting there.
Very purposeful.
We're getting
Yeah,
there.
it's a process. I think this last collaboration was the best we've had.
Yeah.
So we're on the path.
And I think, it's like with anything, I think if you don't keep the maintenance up on it, it starts to drift a little, and I think that's what's happened. And also, we've had more new teachers since collaboration was started in this district. So we have a lot of new teachers in the last 5 years that weren't here when it was created. And the other piece that we've talked quite a bit about is having a facilitator, because when you're running
Yeah.
8 different departments or 5 different grade levels, the building administrator's can't be in all those at the same time. And so what happens is sometimes you have groups that are really on
Yep.
topic, and you have some that start to drift off topic. And without a facilitator there to help keep that conversation and that focus, I think sometimes you see that drift.
It's interesting you should say that, because we got that feedback from someone, when I was at Franklin, they said, thank you so much for being at our collaboration.
Yeah.
And they also thanked Bill, because Bill had been in their grade level collaboration. It makes a difference.
And
It
it does,
really
because we
does.
try to get to them, but like, I spent time with science last time, and it was good, but I could only be at one for that time, which meant other departments may have had somebody or may not have had somebody. And so we've been talking about some ideas about how do we help facilitate those groups.
Yeah, I'm not the first person to bring this up, but we are starting to take action on it, I think. Yeah.
Any other
Good
questions?
question.
I had a few comments. I think what you're doing is very much more than you're even telling us. I think no, what I'm seeing is by the teachers allowing you into their classrooms, what they're doing is they're trusting you. But I think you're serving as a conduit between the teachers and administrators. And that's been lacking for a long time. So I think by allowing you into their rooms, first of all, you can communicate with them, teach them new skills without penalizing them. I think that it builds this bridge to trust into the administration, which is what we need. Second, I think you had talked, Grace, about differentiate. I really don't know in the context of how that's being used. Could you share that information? Maybe not tonight, but maybe
Oh,
just.
yeah, it really is, I can do that.
Okay.
It's just it's just about, it starts with knowledge of your students, everything from how they are academically and their learning style, SES. It's just getting to know your students the best you can and letting them have a voice and what that looks like in a classroom. So for example, say in a K3 classroom, it's those workshop models about how kids are working on the same content but at different levels, what they need or their interests. And it's a lot of work, but one of the things we learned at this training was just implementing a couple things, have a plan for a couple things that are a month, and how that will change. So
So a little experimentation.
yes, yeah, of an example of so I'd say I teach 8th grade ELA, right? And my theme is courage in what I want to teach in a literature book, okay? Why do I have to have the same book for everybody? I don't. So one of the ways to differentiate is if I know my students, maybe if one could be nonfiction, really, one could be fiction, but it's all the same theme of courage. And let them, and I know my students, right? So I'll say, I know their Lexile level, their reading level, so I will know that ahead of time, so I'll make sure that I have different choices at different levels so they can get that access without them knowing.
Awesome. Okay.
And it is a menu of options. You can say,
Yeah.
you can demonstrate your learning in this way, or this way.
Yeah.
Which way are you most
And you
comfortable
don't,
demonstrating
it's
your learning?
about instructional strategies too. It's not what you would do every day, every moment, but it's in that system of best practice. And I'm learning more and more about it. I brought up to Bob and Roberta, and Bob says, like, they are doing it, and I agree they are. You know, our teachers are. Sometimes I don't think they know they're doing
They
it.
don't know they do.
But it is a hard concept. It's about it's the planning ahead of time.
Yeah.
Putting
We
that
have a lot
time
of
in ahead of
teachers
time.
doing it.
Yeah.
They're really.
So that's kind of, does that help clarify it a little bit?
It does, but I still want to talk
Sure,
about it. Yeah,
sure,
okay.
sure.
And Johnny, I'm looking for some summer reading. Could you send me those 2 books
Yep,
that you were so excited about?
you got it.
Okay,
You'll like them.
good.
They're on my desk, Jim.
Oh, they're on your desk. Okay, all right,
You'll
good.
like them. I'd love to. Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, you guys are great,
Sorry
thank
it took
you.
a little bit longer.
Oh,
Just
no
a
worries.
touch.
I was like, I got 2 minutes. We got 2 minutes.
I knew.
But I was trying. I was supporting.
No, y'all did great. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I wouldn't have you do it any other way.
Thank you.
Um,
Visitor section.
Yeah. Do we have any visitors?
No,
Okay. So I'm not going to read the preamble about the visitors section.
we don't have any.
Okay. So we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Thank you,
To
Jill.
expedite business at a board meeting, the board approves the use of a consent agenda, which includes items considered to be routine in nature. Any item which appears on the consent agenda may be removed from the consent agenda by a member of the board and voted on separately, and the remaining items will be voted on by a single motion. Tonight's consent agenda consists of minutes, budget status report, Department of Energy bus grant, personnel report, and warrants. I would now entertain a motion regarding the consent
I
agenda.
move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the consent agenda is approved. Next, we move on to action items, beginning with item A, the 2018-19 board meeting calendar presented by Superintendent Maxwell.
Yes, this was discussed at our last board meeting. You received a copy of a draft, which follows our typical format and schedule. So no suggestions were made last time, so none are made to that schedule.
I move we approve the board meeting calendar as presented.
Second. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the calendar as presented. Is there any further discussion? I would ask, we've been talking about this potential for a joint meeting
Mhm.
with
Yeah, that's a
council
good point,
and
yeah.
so forth. Would we just revise
We would
the
just revise the calendar and bring it back.
And could that be maybe even in the consent?
Just a consent
Okay.
agenda. It would just be in a consent agenda, then you would agree.
Okay.
That's fine with me.
It helps me, I know this is archaic, to get a printed copy
Well, we
of the
can-
calendar.
We can get a printed copy.
I just, that way I can
Would
stick
you like
it
me
on
to
the
put the-
fridge for, and everyone knows.
Yeah, that is
so-
helpful.
Okay, yeah, so if we could just have that included in our,
Let me make a note and I'll
Okay.
get that
thank you.
printed.
All right, is there any other discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Okay, the calendar is approved. Item B tonight is policy 2022, electronic resources. Superintendent Maxwell.
Yes, just a second here and I'll pull that up for you. Get the right one. Again, just to remind you that this policy was recently updated to align with WASDA. Some additional language has been added to provide guidance to school employees regarding social media use, and it was this portion. I don't believe we had any changes from the last time that you looked at this, so it should be the exact language.
Is there a motion regarding this policy?
I move to approve 2022.
Second.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we approve revisions to policy 2022, electronic resources. Is there any discussion?
I'd just like to make a note, should we include a brief statement about political social media pages? I know I had you check in with the attorney
Uh-huh.
about it, and so I just didn't know if the other board members thought it should be included in there. So basically, I asked Bob through an email conversation if this policy included political campaign social media accounts for school board members, right? Because like basically, I just ran one, and you said the attorney basically said do not do that for the reasons cited in the policy. Do we want to explicitly state that, or is it okay as is? I kind of feel like it needs to be in there, but that's just my personal opinion, and I would approve the policy regardless, just depending on what you guys say. Just say that.
There might be a different policy area that governs
There is.
elections and campaigns that it might,
There is another policy that does talk about what, for example, what employees can wear, what they can say, like, they can't use district technology computers to campaign. So there is another policy, I'm trying to think of which one it is.
Is there something more board specific?
I'd have to take a look, I'm not sure,
Okay.
but it probably does not specifically reference social media campaign websites.
Well,
I'd
I
have
know
to
we
take a
had
look
talked
at it.
about wanting to adjust or define the policies for social media used amongst board members. So I don't know if that should be another policy or if it should, because I honestly, the part I keyed in on was only those professional social media accounts approved by the district may use the district's name, the name of any of its schools, departments, mascots, team names, or otherwise present words or images that purport to identify the social media account with the Pullman School District.
Correct.
That would definitely be our political campaign sites, right? Especially as an incumbent board member.
well,
Posting
I
online.
know your opponent, Carl, had a Facebook page and it was called Carl for Kids. So it didn't
Didn't use
Pullman School District
Okay.
at all. And so,
So, because he told me no, and so what you're saying is we can.
If you're gonna use one, you can't use
you can't use the name.
the name Pullman Public School
Yeah.
District.
Okay.
Or like our logo, or,
But presenting yourself as a district board member is not representing yourself as a.
well, if you had
member
a
of the
separate
district.
site and you would say, currently I'm a board member, rerunning for election, that would be fine. But if you're using anything that would look like it's a school district website,
Mhm.
Or that the school district had somehow endorsed you in
endorsed it,
some way,
that would not be appropriate.
Okay.
Does
So.
that help?
It does. Now I'm thinking maybe it doesn't belong in this policy, but it belongs in a board policy.
That's what I'm thinking.
That's what I'm thinking.
I think you might be right.
Because you want something that's specific to the board members, and this
Right.
is,
Yeah.
Not an employee.
this
of
is
the
not a
district.
board.
Yeah, and I know it was like open field, like there was no guidance whatsoever as far as what you should do with social media running a campaign like that. And so I was looking more for just a statement, it's okay, it's not okay.
Mhm.
And so if you guys think it belongs in a different policy, I would.
I would recommend we take a look at a board-specific policy, and if you're interested, put it there.
Okay. Does WASDA, do you know if WASDA has anything like that or working on it?
I don't know, but I can, we can always go in and search.
Okay.
I think it would be a good idea, just thinking into the future, because we wouldn't want the name of our district being used. You know how there's always like Mike the mechanic running or whatever, you don't want people to,
Well, and it's a weird gray area. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
huge, because I get like messages, just random iMessages and Facebook messages from people on social media, definitely addressing me as a board member, and I don't know, I would just like us to come up with a policy to just explain how we should communicate with people in those instances and also for
Mhm.
political campaigns and otherwise. So I would say table that for another meeting and then.
oh, yes, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are good ideas to explore, for sure.
And that's why we really needed to get something, this is gonna be ever-changing,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
so.
Yeah.
It's probably good to be vague too, because then you can
Well,
fit
and
the
it-
gray areas in the lines.
But we needed to put something in, because we have, we're starting to see this more and more, and if we don't have any guidance, then it really leaves our employees to go, well, what do I do? And so that's what the,
Okay. In that case, no more discussion from me.
All right, is there any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, policy, revisions to policy 2022 are approved. Next, we move on to policy 2410, graduation requirements.
correct, and so it had my name, but I think Roberta's been working on this, so we'll
Okay.
tag team it. What we, at the request of the board. We put in a clean copy as well, because I think that's a little bit easier to read. And then actually, before I do that, I'm going to go back, sorry. And I am going to just, I forget what I put in.
So is the clean copy the most up-to-date copy?
Yes.
Okay.
So the clean copy has taken out all the things so it was easier to read. But again, I'm going to pull up just the background to let you know that we've spent quite a bit of time taking a look at reorganizing this to improve the clarity, striking language that no longer served a purpose, striking language related to additional information. WAS's recommended language shifts some of the language to policy to procedure. And then basically what we're really looking with this is the requirement of career choices to include culminating project for the class of 2019 and beyond, and to evaluate that course in the spring of 2019. That is I think the primary thing that we're looking at with this piece is, and from what I heard from the board, is taking a look at running this year. We have our students enrolled. Parents are waiting to get information about starting the project because many of the students want to start over the summer. And this is probably a week or two after the letters would usually go out. So I know some of the parents have expressed an urgency to get going. We put in some questions and answers regarding financial education, which would be incorporated into the course. We put in this table so you could get an updated, what do we offer now and what classes cover either all the standards or some of the standards. And you see the population of students, because some of these courses, like the first one, I Live, CTE, that's only offered every other year, only impacts probably one class of students. Economics, civics, second semester, that gets about 60 students, and on and on. So one of the things that we will be taking a look on is how can we, with the career choices, we'll be incorporating that all, so our students would have an umbrella to enable to get those. The history was included. We also put in a proposed schedule. So in offering a 0 period, first period independent study, and a work-based learning coordination period. This would allow those students that have full schedules or running start, they could take it 0 period, they could take an independent study, they could attend a class. So we tried to make sure that we could think of every possible event where a student may not be able to access the class by sitting in the class directly. Taking a look at the culminating project as being part of that, the grade would be a pass-fail, and credit earned would be a 0.5.
So when you're talking about a letter going out to parents, is that specific for the culminating project?
That's specific for the culminating project.
So it's not all this graduation requirements? and
It's
stuff?
not, but
No.
the syllabus would also cover career choices, but I think a lot of parents are more interested in the culminating piece because a lot of the students want to get their hours and start the project in over the summer.
There has traditionally been a springtime meeting where you get to learn how you start.
As a junior?
So as you're an outgoing junior, if you're planning to work on your project over the summer, you go and you attend this meeting and learn what the documentation requirements and things like that. So we haven't had that meeting.
But
And
I'm
they-
confident we can.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
give an okay so they can start that rather
Yeah,
than.
Okay. And does Kelly do that
Yes.
presentation?
Yes.
Okay. My other question is on the table.
Yes.
Are
sorry,
those the
I forgot.
name, on the first column, is that the name of the instructor underneath the?
Yes. mhm.
Okay,
So
so
they
that's
go
something
off-
that would need to be updated annually if instructors change?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
and that would be in the course catalog.
Okay.
And
kind of
that's,
just background.
that's specifically related to where that financial literacy content is currently being taught. That was to provide you with background to say, we do teach it in some of the standards, some of the courses, all of the standards. But one of the things we don't know is in the population, are some of those kiddos the same ones? So they're getting it in more than one course. But by embedding it in the career choices, everyone will have access to it.
And for, I think for ourselves, this would be a nice way so as to make sure that we're aligning the courses so that we're making sure that all students have the opportunity for that. And we don't have any holes.
And I think the real strength in the proposal that we have before you tonight is this idea of evaluating the course in spring of 2019. So after fall semester. So my guess is that we would be here too in early March, maybe at the March work session, and that would be the point where we talk to you about, with the teacher, comes in and shares the experiences and the data that we've been able to collect. Because I want you to have that as a mid-year marker, and then to also know any changes or adjustments we might make in the course. How we've been able to do those creative offerings by zero period and an independent study, and because by then all of those pieces will be firmed up, and I think it's an appropriate time for us to talk to you about that.
Could we also get data on how many students are doing it zero period independent
Oh, yeah.
study?
Sure.
And whether or not there are some students who can't fit it into their load with their current running start
Yeah.
plans?
We will have all of that data
Okay.
at that
Yeah.
point, yeah. Yeah, because.
I know my daughter signed up to do an independent study
Yeah.
because she already has a zero period.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we will know that easily, even at the beginning of the school year, we'll know where kids are enrolled in that course or scheduled to be enrolled for the next semester.
I'm thinking, Roberta, we might want to start sooner than March, though.
Coming and talking with you. Oh, yeah, I just want to make sure that we have enough time to analyze the data from the
Okay.
first semester. I don't want, I know how that can be, and so I want to make sure we do a good job, so I'd rather promise less and deliver more, be here in February.
So does that mean the students who take it, career choices in the fall semester, they defend their senior boards in December?
Yes.
And- Okay.
Or January would be my guess,
Oh, at
January.
semester's end?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, we already know that's what we'll have to plan for too.
So that will be a change
That'll be a
in
change.
how things are done?
Yeah.
And then would they do that then within their normal course, or would you still set aside a big day?
We'll have to build that.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of the advantages of this year, and I know they may have talked about maybe having them all present in the spring again, just because with the testing, that allowed freshmen to come see the projects, and most of those probably, I know Amanda, you attended some of the presentations. A lot of those were freshman students and
Juniors.
juniors, because the sophomores were taking a test. And what that would have allowed us to do was save a whole day of missed instructional time. And so there were some advantages of having them all present at that time. We could be more efficient, effective. And it also allowed those freshmen to come see, which I think was important because they get a sense of, what that looks like in the future. And this is what I need. And the juniors go, oh, wow, I better step up my game and think about what I need to do.
Yeah, and I was so impressed by how attentive the kids were, the audience members were, and the great questions that they asked. Things
Yeah.
that I wouldn't have ever thought of, so.
No, they were very, very actively participating in the class I was in.
Can we open the clean copy policy? Because I may have misunderstood what was going on, I totally admit that.
What do you want?
But, so clean copy of the
Oh, clean copy.
graduations?
Sorry.
Yes, and so
Hold on.
I thought we were removing the culminating project as a graduation requirement and folding it into career choices. But the document still says 3.0, complete a culminating project. During the course of their high school career, each
Let
student
me
will
open
complete
that
a
up.
culminating project.
That is, the culminating project will be embedded in the course, but that's a component of the course, so therefore that's, because we have continued it and other districts have not, we have laid it out that way. It can be deleted if that's what you would prefer.
Well, no,
but-
I just wanted to make sure that we understood what was going on, because
Yeah.
I thought that we were basically removing the project itself and just saying career choices is required and the project is part of career choices.
Yeah, we're removing the standalone of the culminating project, but embedding it within the course, and I don't think that it
It's
says,
on page 2 for Bob. on the
Right.
bottom.
Page 2.
yeah,
At
I
the
don't
very
think,
top.
I don't think that it,
It kind of cuts off right there,
Oh,
so
it
it's
cuts
hard
off.
to see.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry about that, Roberta.
That's fine.
Get us on
You're
that.
right.
no, that's
right there.
totally fine.
It's-
I just don't see where, that this would say that they don't have to do the course. But I'm happy to delete that if that's what you would
Well, I
prefer.
think it's good to leave it in there.
I like it to be real clear that that's an expectation.
Yeah.
No, definitely, but
Yeah.
I would ask that we just put complete a project, a culminating project in career choices or as a part of the career choices program. Just because for me, it seems like we're still leaving just the culminating
You
project.
would just
as
like a
graduation
clarification on
requirement.
the end to say that this
So
is included in
yeah.
the class.
Yeah, we could say that.
Yes, and, I mean, if it's that simple, that's fine.
I slightly disagree with you, Nathan, and here's why.
Okay.
I would like to leave the door open, and I realize it's not open at this time, but almost everything else, you can do a competency-based thing. And we don't have it set up right now, but I would like to envision if we kept this, that at some point, as a very organized student, could complete a culminating project and show that they took a class that met the financial education
challenge, of
standards,
course.
Yeah.
and
skip the career
therefore
choices
could
class
petition their
completely.
way out of career choices. And so by leaving it separate
Yes.
like this, I think it's more intuitive how you would do that.
But then why are we auto-editing the policy? Because it's still a graduation requirement. I mean, then I don't understand what we're changing.
We're encouraging students to take this course where they will be mentored through both subject areas.
And we're not that flexible opportunity or auditing the, what did you call it?
Competency.
Competent, yeah, we don't offer that currently. But if we didn't tie it to the course at the end of the culminating project, we could offer that in the future, but that will take the teacher who's in charge of the course to develop that process and,
Right, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
But currently, the culminating project is competency-based. You go out there and you do it, and you show that you've done it. And
Yeah.
you're not in a course.
So what you're saying is they can graduate without taking career choices, but they still have to complete a culminating project.
that's, if we allowed them that opportunity to
Challenge the course.
challenge the
Yeah.
course in whatever format. We don't currently have that opportunity available, but we could, because it's available in a lot of our courses. So they will still complete the culminating project, but they may not take the career choices class because we offer a way for them to test out. We have several courses that students can test out of.
Yeah,
You should
occasionally.
just say your daughter was going to take a 499 special project
Mhm.
and still do a culminating project.
Yep.
Well, I just fail to see how we're getting
She's gonna
rid of
take the
culminating
course
project
and
as a
the
graduation requirement, is all. Because I thought that was the choice before the board currently is, do we make it part of the career choices curriculum, or do we get rid of it completely? That was the question that was asked, right?
I agree, that was the question that
Yes.
was
So
asked.
my question currently is, how did we change it from not being a graduation requirement anymore? If it still says you have to complete a culminating project for graduation, I mean, I'm not trying to be difficult, I promise, I just don't understand what we're changing, if anything.
Well, we agreed to, at least I thought, that's what I was agreeing to do the culminating project for this forthcoming year, but evaluate it in the spring of 2019.
Well, we
Okay, so
haven't
we're not
voted
folding
yet,
it into
but-
the course yet.
Yes, ma'am.
This is
Yes.
where I was misunderstanding. Okay, so we're not doing anything for a year then.
No,
No.
that is a misunderstanding.
Okay, then what about this paragraph makes it not a graduation requirement?
The culminating project is a graduation requirement when it is embedded in the course. The culminating project right now is a graduation requirement, but it is not embedded in the course.
But we don't have an option currently to test out of the course or to get
No,
out of the course.
But I'm
That
not
could be
saying that would be
possible.
something that we would explore, like we do with other courses. So the culminating project remains an expectation regardless of
Gotcha.
of access.
And we reevaluate in spring.
Yes,
of
and
19.
in the spring, we're going to
Early-
talk about,
Early in the spring.
do we have other students that are, where that has come up? I mean, at that point, we'll have a better sense of, do we have students who wanted to test out or say that they have other courses that would meet those requirements?
Okay. I think I'm just gonna have to be quiet, because I'm not quite sure I understand how we're changing this from being anything other than what it is already.
Well, the career choices is an addition. Isn't that the change?
It's
Yes.
an addition.
Yeah.
That's the change, is the half credit career choices requirement.
And on that note, what is the star by the 5 when career choices indicate?
Oh, I wondered about that too, because I couldn't find
Because
where
I
that
probably, in
asterisk
all of my thousands of times I've edited this,
That was one that we were going to take the asterisks off because in a previous version of this, there was an asterisk rather than the 1, 2, 3, 4.
so
5.
this is how many versions I have of
Yeah.
this policy right here. And so at one point, that was supposed to be removed, and so that will be
Okay, so that
deleted.
doesn't mean anything.
That doesn't mean
No.
anything. Thank you for clarifying
No
that.
worries. I still think that we're not really doing anything to the culminating project right now, other than adding career choices as an option and just leaving everything alone.
It's not an option.
Career
Well, as
choices.
a requirement.
Yes.
But the way it was presented to me last meeting was that we were either going to make career choices the requirement and fold the project into it as an assignment, or get rid of it completely.
I think
That's correct, right?
yeah, that is how it was presented at the last meeting, and I still think that that's
What we're
a
doing.
legitimate, you're choosing one of those. In other words, the option that is not available is to keep it as it is right now, where we have a culminating project, but we have no systemic support.
Because of funding, because of not being able to pay the instructors. and
Lot,
teachers
yeah,
as well.
That's part of it.
Yeah.
It's part of it, it's not all of it.
Yeah.
but
right, that's a
Yeah.
large part of it. So, yeah, so it's not an option to keep graduation requirements just as they are.
Okay. I'm gonna stop this, because we're gonna revise it in a year anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole point is to try this for a year, and then we're gonna see what's worked and hasn't worked, and then
Okay.
That was my
Reassess.
understanding.
No,
Yes.
and mine too, but I thought we were gonna try something different than what we've been doing, which we're not.
Oh, yes, we are.
Well, I mean,
Well,
other
this
than
is
adding
gonna-
career choices,
That's a
And
big,
But
that's
that's
gonna be
a
the
huge
difference.
shift.
yeah.
Okay.
That's a huge shift.
That's a-
Huge.
Yeah.
There's a huge shift of every senior is going to be taking that course.
And with that comes some guidance for their culminating projects.
Yes.
Correct.
Which they haven't had in the past.
Yes.
Right. And that's why we've had some students that have struggled because they haven't had that piece.
We'll
No
see it.
organized mentorship. Now they'll have organized mentorship.
okay.
So there are some major changes, but it's really an interim change that
It's temporary
we're
at this point.
trying for a year to see.
Well,
how
I
it's
just don't
gonna work.
understand how it's gonna be folded into the course when it's still a year-long project. I mean, they're starting at the junior year, they're finishing at their end of senior year. How is that any different than, I mean, how is that part of career choices is my question.
No, what they'll do, they won't have the whole year. They will really do it within the semester, which it's 25 hours. So it's very conceivable, 25 hours. And one of the things I think Amanda and Allison and Bob and I all heard was time management is the greatest struggle. They all tell you, time management, I had too long or I didn't have enough time. And when we established the structure to say, in these 90 days, you need to do 25 hours to complete your senior project. Some of the kids will do 50 or 100 hours, but this is how much time. This is kind of a good pacing for it, and I think they'll present at the end of the semester because they'll need to be graded out of the course, and so I think those in first semester will present at the end of the semester and be graded out. So it won't be a year-long process, and that's one of the things that the kids, we heard over and over is, I waited too long to get started, if I had only started in the fall.
Well, no, and just to point out, not every exiting junior starts in the summer.
No.
Those are typically your organized students that know they're going to be playing 3 sports or running start or whatever, they want to get started early,
Or they're doing something weather dependent.
or weather dependent, or mentor dependent, or project dependent.
One that I watched, she put in 180 hours.
Yeah.
So she had obviously been working on it for a very long time.
No, and I totally, that's my problem, is that it's not part of a course in one semester if it takes them a whole year to do.
But some
And
of
it's
them
not
want to
moving it.
take a year.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them may assume that since it's part of this course, they don't need to take a year, and they start beginning of the semester. And so I tend to get a little confused as to what the student should do. Should they start it as a junior, or should they start it with the course?
They can choose.
They can
That, and that
choose.
will be some of the work that Kelly and Rhea, who have been doing this for several years, they'll lay that out for them. That you can, if you start in the summer, this is going to be a year approval process. They have a process that's very well defined. And so you can start early and still not take the course till second semester. That's completely doable. Or you don't start early. I have one child that wouldn't have started until 2 weeks
Well, no,
before it was
Some people
due.
need the incentive, right? And so my point is, like, you're really putting them on different levels. If some people are starting in, regardless of, it's like the lady said, we get the student, the parents send us the best students we have, and so we want to give them all equal chance.
Yes.
If you're telling me that it's now part of the course, but nothing has procedurally changed with the project, I mean, everyone, the motivated students will start in junior year, senior students will start later. I just fail to see how it's part of career choices and not still just a standalone project.
But this is a part of the, and if we think back to Kelly's conversation with us 2 weeks ago, it's really about that ability to differentiate. Like, so one of the pieces with differentiation is you want multiple entry points. So an entry point for kiddo into senior project could be summer going into their senior year. That could be their entry point. Other kids need more structure. And so you might need to have a meeting before school starts to talk about it, if you know that you've got kids that are going to kind of struggle getting started. So you might even initiate that then. There'll be other kids that will, go to October 1 and say, oh, I've got to get my hours done. They'll sit down and do them all. So I think the beauty of this is that it can be flexible, and especially the way we've written the schedule for this staff member, by having a 0 period, by having a directed study period, that there's some flexibility for our kids during that time to have great access to the teacher, and then they'll help them to structure the culminating project.
So they have access to their career choices instructor before the course?
They certainly can.
So that course is really spread over a year, really, or more.
Well,
A year.
it is spread over from the time that Kelly and Rhea have the meeting until the student completes it.
Okay. That makes me feel better, to be honest. Because honestly, what I was thinking is the exceptionally diligent students will get a lead over the students who say maybe have a job and other worries and don't really get started until the teacher tells them to, right? I mean, that's...
Yeah. So our son plays basketball in the summer. He wouldn't have, there's just, given his schedule with that, he wouldn't have time to do it in the summer. He knows that, so he knows he's going to have to jump in and be all in when it's time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll stop. But I'm
It's
still
totally fine. I
slightly
appreciate it.
unconvinced, but
I
that's
ap-
okay.
I appreciate it, and we will continue to be back to the board about it.
Thank you very much for
Yeah.
entertaining me.
That's
Oh,
what
you're
that's what this
welcome.
is about, though, is having the
That's why we
discussion.
have these conversations, yeah.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
We usually don't have teachers' names in policies, is that correct?
That's not the policy, that was just
It's
the
executive
background.
summary.
Okay.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was just the background.
Yeah.
That was my confusion.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that was just to give you more data.
Yeah.
That was just a data piece I wanted to provide,
Okay.
so.
Um,
So you know currently who was teaching these courses.
Okay, well, if there is no further discussion,
I move to approve policy 2410, graduation requirements.
Second?
okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, that's approved by the board.
Thank you.
I'll say for the record, my vote doesn't count because I'm the chair. I would have voted against it, just because I don't think it's fair to a student to change their graduation requirements as they're entering their senior year. But,
By adding the career choices?
yeah.
But I am
Talking
happy
about
to
that.
share with you that that has been, career choices has been communicated with these students since they were in
Since
the
they were
8th
freshmen,
grade.
right?
Well, this is
Yeah.
prompted by a state mandate though, correct? That we have to have financial literacy.
That's part of where we've chosen to embed financial
Okay,
literacy.
gotcha.
But these students have known about this since because Kelly has clearly communicated that.
But it wasn't in their handbook at any time. It will be a new addition to the handbook, so it will be new to people, and that doesn't seem right, but I do think it's going to be, we've worked with continued work on this proposal, there are now enough ways to accommodate everybody's needs that it can be done. So
Yeah.
I think it will end up being a win
Great,
in the end.
good. We hope so. I'm excited to come back and talk to you about it.
Yeah.
You know, we'll be bringing it back to
Yeah.
you with the data, so.
In February.
Yeah, that'll be great. Okay, well, let's move on to policy 2108, Learning Assistance Program.
So as you remember, this policy has a title change, some changes related to the Everyone Succeeds Act and a WAC, adjusting student selection, defined best practices, coordination with other programs, reporting guidelines, and the procedure was deleted because of redundancy with the policy. So no changes since the last board meeting.
Is there a motion?
I move approval of policy 2108, Learning Assistance Program.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve revisions to policy 2108, Learning Assistance Program. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Making a
Those
note.
revisions are approved. Next, we have policy 4121, staff communications responsibility, slated for deletion. Would you like to say anything?
Sure, I'll just say that WASA does not have this policy or any comparable version of this policy. This was one, I think, left over from the early 90s. There's been no changes, and recommendation stands that we delete this because the communication responsibilities are covered in each individual program and/or policy procedural requirements.
I move approval of the deletion for 4121, staff communications responsibility.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we delete policy 4121. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it is deleted. Next, 4122, legal information sources.
And so, again, this is one very old policy from the 90s. Again, WASA does not have this, nor a comparable version. Legal resources referred to in this policy are available to all staff, including administrators, students, and the public. These things can also be found online. So no changes since our last discussion.
Okay,
Yeah, that's kind of a given.
is there a motion?
I move to approve the deletion.
Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we delete policy 4122, legal information sources. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that is deleted. Next, policy 4235, public performances.
Yeah, so this one we had some discussion on at our last board meeting. And one of the things that the board had asked is that I talk with Chris Franklin, our CTE director, and Rob Matthews, our FFA teacher and advisor. So I met with both of them yesterday. They've had an opportunity to review that. We know of no current competition where the students receive a financial award. The National Welding Association, they give a plaque and a welding helmet or welding equipment, but it's not cash to the student. FFA, we talked about the show animals. The animals are purchased by the students individually, raised by the students individually. All their feed, grooming, veterinary costs are all covered by the individual student. So yes, when they sell an animal, that money goes to them, but it's not supported with public funds as far as caring for that animal.
Thank you.
Rob serves as an advisor. The only thing I could think of, and this would even be stretching it, would be if we were to hold an art walk and a student sold a piece of their art. Now, whether the supplies were school provided or individually provided. But yeah, we don't have that either yet. So we couldn't locate a chance where somebody would be paid cash. So they did not have any concerns with this particular policy currently, and they don't foresee anything necessarily in the future where paying a student directly cash would come
The
into
board
play.
could always revisit the policy.
Yeah, if one
We
came
need
up.
it to.
I appreciate you looking into that, though. That's
Oh,
very
no,
good.
no, I didn't, I really hadn't thought much about the animals as a performance. You know, they're showing the animals, which I guess is sort of a performance, but it was interesting to have the conversation, so. So it was a good conversation, but both of them had no concerns about this impacting their programs.
Okay.
I move approval of policy 4235, public performances.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve policy 4235, public performances. Any further discussion? That was a good discussion about that. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next, we have, oh, Diane, yay. Policy 5401, sick leave.
So we are updating policy 5401 to include the language from Initiative 1433, adding sick leave hours to temporary employees. Any hours worked over 40, they get 1 hour sick leave. So it's just basically adding that to the policy. So we're just asking approval.
Do you think, I mean, even, I assume they've been acquiring these hours already. Are you just
As
trying
of
to-
January 1st.
Yeah, you're just trying to make sure that our board policy is consistent with
Yeah, we're just
what the state
updating it.
requires you to do.
Yeah, updating it with the
Okay.
WASDA policy to include the language.
Okay.
Yeah.
I move approval of the policy 5401, sick leave.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve revisions to policy 5401. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, those revisions are approved, thank you. Now we're going to skip to Bob for 5240, evaluation of staff.
Are we
Thank-
not?
Well, you have then 6,000 next, so
Oh, okay.
just, I don't
You
have
can
to
just
stay
hold
here.
steady.
Yeah, I would
I'll be
stay.
done in just a second
Yeah.
with this one. So this was one that we talked about a little bit last time. This is an update with minor wording, formatting changes. Certificated teachers, certificated principal sections were combined into one. Deletion of language that is already included in the current bargaining agreements. Director Weed had pointed out, and I'll try to follow the cursor here, one change was, from I heard from the board, was to eliminate and are not subject to the 4-level rating system. This is specifically to certificated support personnel, which would be like your speech language pathologist. So that change is different, and that was a suggestion from our last meeting. Everything else was, at that time, okay, and there were no other changes suggested.
Okay.
I will move that we approve the policy.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that we approve revisions to policy 5240, evaluation of staff. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, those revisions are approved. And now, Diane, back to you. Policy 6000, program planning, budget preparation, adoption, and implementation.
Okay, so on this one, we are increasing our fund balance from 6% to 7% based upon the board's request. There were a couple changes. Nathan had a request to put in there something about meeting 1 month's payroll. So if you look at section 4.2, I included a minimum fund balance of 7% will be reserved to meet 1 month's payroll, so we added that. And then based upon the board's discussion, we wanted to increase the general fund balance from 200 to 300, so that change was also made. Otherwise, everything's the same.
I think that'll clarify this situation if the teachers raise some questions about excess revenue.
Absolutely,
I mean, we have a policy that states why we're
right.
banking that money.
Now
Yeah.
you can point to it every time. someone
Exactly.
asks you. The board
Well,
makes
not
me
only
do
that,
this.
but there's other school districts that are jumping on board with that, so they can have them 1 month payroll and
I
reserve
think
too.
it's being transparent.
Absolutely.
Well, fiscally
We're just
Responsible.
We're just not
Yeah.
pocketing.
Because if you're borrowing money to make payroll each month,
Yeah, that could be scary.
that's
Yeah. That's not sound.
It's not
fiscal
sound.
management.
operating, so.
Okay, well, with that, is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve policy 6000, program planning, budget preparation, adoption, and implementation.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we approve revisions to policy 6000. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that is approved. Thank you, Diane. And finally, policy 6535, student insurance, presented by Joe Thornton.
And this reflects some recommended policy or language changes from WASDA, mostly along the lines of saying that the district will offer student insurance to a district and may offer student insurance.
Seems good.
I move that we approve the student insurance policy as presented very
Second.
succinctly by Joe.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded
You got
that
the
we
next one,
approve revisions to policy 6535, student insurance. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Who's seconding that one?
I'll second it. Did I move to approve it though?
No, you moved. Nathan
That's what I
moved. I
thought,
got
yeah.
that. I
I
didn't.
thought I seconded it.
Okay.
Oh, because you're taking notes
I'm
now
taking
while
notes.
Joe's.
Sorry.
We should go slower. Okay,
Sorry.
yeah.
I just want to make sure I get it right, so.
All right, so we got it, and
Okay.
did I say, and then it was unanimously approved,
And
right?
I got that, yeah.
Okay.
You did.
All right, so now we move on to discussion items. Our first discussion item this evening is summer activities, presented again by Joe.
So one of the requirements from our insurance carrier, Clear Risk Solutions, is that anything we do outside of the school year along the lines of activities and athletics, so this does not include summer educational programs, but this includes any activities, that any of those activities are approved by you and then submitted to them. So this is the forms. This is the list of stuff that the school, and this really applies to the high school and the middle school, that they submitted to us. The one middle school program is a basketball camp at the middle school. Everything else is high school stuff. One of the things I'd like to point out to you, all this extra time that these coaches and advisors put in the summer, that's gratis. I mean, that's just something they do because they love that connection with kids and they have a passion for that. Whether it's Andy Milkey doing some musical theater, or whether it's David Kofer doing a football camp, or whether it's our new girls basketball coach throwing together some practice. It's just something because they love to do it. Questions?
Do you have any concerns with any of the activities?
No.
This is independent of any functions that utilize the school district facilities through the summer that are not related to K through 12 classes, is that correct?
So, for example, somebody renting a facility,
Right.
or Comments, for example, using the track.
Or what about like the YMCA?
This is independent of
Those are
that.
independent activities. but
Correct.
We're still covered insurance-wise, different.
Correct. That is correct. So, for example, one of the things that's happening this year this summer in the high school theater is the Washington State Distinguished Young Women competition, which used to be held up at Beasley for many, many, many years. They're now moving into Pullman High School in August. They're renting the facility, even though that is going to include one of our kids. It's really not our event.
Yeah.
So they're covered. They have to have a $1 million insurance rider policy in order to be able to use our facility.
Okay.
So that's an independent event of the Pullman School District.
Good, thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, thank you. All right, next, WIAA enrollment.
Here we go. All right.
Didn't I just sign that?
Yep.
So.
You signed it before we voted on it?
I figured I was the WIA board rep. I mean, it's not controversial.
So each year, WIA, Washington Interscholastic Activities Association, requires the board approve our district's membership to WIAA. The WIAA controls, supervises, and regulates extracurricular activities for the district. So it's a resolution. So this is one of those things that you basically have to sign, or we don't have athletics.
Yep.
So
That's kind of why I signed
It's
it.
pretty-
I figured that was the case.
So, so it is a resolution. This is a resolution on the screen. Here's the hard copy. So,
Does
do you
it
have
need to
any
be
questions?
voted upon?
Yeah, you have to take action on it.
So signing it isn't
So we
sufficient.
should move this to an action item.
You can, or you can wait.
Since I already signed it, maybe
Yeah.
we should move it to an action item.
Oh.
Second.
That's fine. It is not controversial. I mean, no one in the
No,
community
I'm
is
just-
going to come forward and say.
I
They
just
sure will if we don't sign it.
Yeah.
If you don't sign it, I can
just
guarantee.
I want to take Nate off the hook here.
Okay, so in that case, I would entertain a motion to move this to an action item.
I move to move it to an action item.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we move the adoption or approval of Resolution 181902, 2018-19 WIAA membership to an action item this evening. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So it is now an action item, and so I would now entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
I move that we, oh, go ahead.
I move to approve the resolution for the WIAA enrollment.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so now whoever signed it is looking good, and whoever hasn't signed it.
There is, I'll pass this around because there's a
it's in here.
spot.
Oh, they all.
Yeah, it was,
Oh,
all, it was in the
signed
board
it.
packet
Okay.
that we were passing around. I at least read it. Yeah, signed it.
Good. Okay.
You guys are on.
Well,
the
it
ball.
actually is dated with today's
Today,
date, so
yeah.
somebody must have been thinking ahead here. So that's great. Okay.
So is that something that we sign annually
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, you'll see it about this time of year every year,
for the
for the next year.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just a standard resolution that
Sure.
you'll have the opportunity to participate in.
Okay. So next, Bob, you can walk us through the 2017-2018 Paraprofessionals
Sure.
Collective Bargaining Agreement.
Again, I apologize for the last minute, but literally, we just got this back from WIA. We have
No,
to.
from WEA.
I mean, WEA, sorry, I got WIAA on my mind. This was from WEA, so going through the contract takes a lot of set of eyes and working, so we have all the corrections. So this has been added. I want to give you as much time as possible to look through it. I will just highlight a couple areas that I would like to draw your attention to. One of them is work year. There are 2 additional district days that were negotiated, so it'll be a 182 contract for paras, not a 180. Personal leave.
Can I ask, what do they do on those 2
Oh, sorry.
additional days?
So those will be district-directed work and/or professional development.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sorry. If I go too quick, just let me know. Personal leave, increased personal leave to 3 paid days versus before there was 1 paid day, and then 2 of those days, basically they had to pay the substitute to take that day.
And
Now
they get
it's,
3
they get 3.
paid days.
Yep. So these are kind of the cost items that I'm hitting right here in this one. So association leave went from 5 days to 10 days. The cost of subs shall be reimbursed by the association.
And that's the PEA Association lead?
Yes, yep. And then the wage placement provisions, that's going to be at the very end of the bargaining agreement. So it increased special education parapro hourly rate to 55 cents higher than general education parapros. So it's kind of a different layout. So all the paras received a 2.3 state allocated increase, plus about 3.7%, depending on where they are in the salary schedule. Article 2, business, pretty straightforward language. If you want to know what the management rights are, they're in that section. That's Article 2, business. Employees' rights are Article 3. That's probably always a good one to review. Like I said, working conditions, I talked about, it's 182 days. For this year only, that 182nd day is optional. And this is only a one-year contract for this year. So it's only in effect for the rest of this, whatever many weeks we have. So that's why it's time sensitive and I put it in. Evaluation, that would be one that you would want to take a look at. That is Article 5. Article 7, layoff and recall. That would be a section to look at. Article 8, leaves. That would be the other article I would call your attention to if you're going to be spending some time. And Article 9, which is fiscal, that covers the fiscal portions. So those would be the areas I would really call your attention to as you read through that contract.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Bob, since we didn't have a written contract with the parapros for the last 15 years, is that correct?
19.
19 years.
Well, we had one, but it was never activated.
Okay. Maybe I'm thinking optimistically here. Will this make the next bargaining round go easier?
I would expect it would. We did a lot of work on the language
Right.
pieces, and so I expect that for this next year, since we spent so much time working on language, that there shouldn't be a whole lot of new or suggested changes in
I
language.
guess I'm being optimistic for you, not for necessarily me.
Well, they only have a few weeks to come up with text changes, right?
Yeah.
So before.
Yeah, and actually this runs till August,
Okay, gotcha,
but,
so a few months.
but
So basically, for all the parapros that are currently being employed by the district, this would be a new policy. I mean,
yes, this will
there are
be
probably very few parapros that were here 19 years ago.
very, very few.
Yeah. So I mean, this
So-
is essentially a new contract with a new group of
Yes.
parapros.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all right.
So I wanted to make sure that I gave you time.
Okay.
I just wanted to point out ones that you should call your attention to.
Exactly.
And if you do have any questions, definitely feel free to.
You said this was time sensitive.
Yeah, well, and it's time sensitive because their work year ends June 30th.
Okay.
And Diane's already going to have to go back and retro the pay. And that takes an extreme amount of time. I mean, it's going to take her a long time. And she's,
Very pleased about
yes, she's
You're very
just
pleased about the contract or spending all the extra time?
both.
Oh, okay.
She's happy for the opportunity.
Okay,
She is.
that makes me happy.
All right.
Okay.
So, just in general, Bob, can I get your opinion on how this contract compares to other paraprofessional groups in the area or comparative school systems?
I will say the wage schedule's extremely well, probably above comparable. So it's hard to give you an answer because they're
Nuances.
in our ESD with 59 districts, there are a lot of differences. You know.
I'm really wondering, just when I get approached by someone telling me anything about the contract, I want to know the 2-sentence thing that I should tell them of why it's a good deal.
This is a very fair contract.
Very fair, that's what I was going to say.
It's a very fair contract.
Okay, and so when they bring up like Clarkston, how does it compare, for instance, to Clarkston's pay schedule or vacation
The
days?
fact that we pay benefits is also a huge.
We pay more medical than Clarkston does.
No, this is the things I want to know, because this is what always gets brought up, is the Clarkston
And-
wage schedule.
And
but
part
it's-
of it is, we can only go off of their last contract, and they may be negotiating a new contract, so it's hard to say how
Sure.
comparable it is, but compared to the one that was used, and we used several different districts. And it's hard sometimes too, because they don't necessarily have the same definition of a para. They may have positions that don't exist in our district. They may have a level system that's different. The pay scale could be, the pay could be the same, but you maybe have to work in 5 years to get to step 1, where we started step 1. So it's hard to look at it. You really literally have to lay both the contracts down and try to size them up to see. This is very, very competitive. I think the district financially put a lot of dollars towards our employees.
And can you, Dan, I don't know if you know like a rough amount and salary, base expenses / benefits, this is going to make our budget go up. I mean, do you know the additional funds we're putting into the?
I'll look to Diane to.
The benefits alone were $129,000, and then the salaries, I want to say is about $25,000. And that's not including the additional personal base. I'm going to say that's probably $12,000.
Those are all very helpful. Thank you very much.
And the other thing about the other school districts is there's quite a few of those school districts, when you're comparing salary schedules, they'll come back and say, well, they're making $19 an hour. Well, that's if you hit 25 years, you'll make $19 an hour. So a lot of them have the longevity schedule where ours is just at 5. So you get to that high point.
Yeah. No, and I always get lost in the nuances around too, because there's so much information, you know. But so basically what we're saying is that we increase the expenditures on parapros for benefits, $129,000.
Yes.
And then for salaries, roughly, including personal days, like, 37 or so, right? Okay, that sounds great, thank you.
Any other questions?
Good questions.
Okay.
Okay, it looks like we have come to the end of our discussion items. There are some informational items in the packet. I'm sorry I didn't notice this earlier, but I cannot locate 2410P. Is it in there?
No, that should be on
okay.
there.
Okay. So is that a work in progress, or are there changes?
It's a
or-
work in- Yeah,
Okay.
lots of changes, but I'll probably just send a clean copy.
Well, it helps now that we know what the policy is.
Yeah.
Well, that shouldn't have been on there, that was an error.
Okay, just checking on that. Are there any other questions about the informational items? Okay, and then if there are no objections, we will now move into an executive session, the purpose of which is to discuss negotiations and personnel. How long will this executive session take?
I will try to keep it under a half an hour.
Okay, so ideally, we will adjourn the meeting then by 9 with no action having been taken during that time.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.